A lot of times people tell us that we should do what feels right. I have a guest here who disagrees with that. I'm Maurice from CreateGrowProfit.com, and today I'm speaking to Morteza Chalak. Morteza, thank you so much for being here. Where are you calling in from?
My pleasure from Melbourne, Australia.
Morteza, why is intuition sometimes misleading us? Or why should we do things that feel wrong in our gut?
Because a lot of times we carry negative sort of experiences in our subconscious. And by carrying that, sometimes we see opportunities that are actually not good to take, and the other way around. So if you want, I can give you an example.
Yeah. Please give me an example. But before we look at the example, what is it that you do today in your work with clients and people?
So I have a secure love program where people who are scared of being used in marriage because they had a negative experience, they follow this program and it work with them from fundamental level, removing the relationship anxiety to giving them some tools, being able to avoid people who may use them, and also start to build a secure relationship. And I think the intuition also comes to that. I think the first part, which is how to remove relationship anxiety, talks about that intuition that sometimes is wrong. You know, you stored some negative experiences in your childhood or in your adulthood experience, which, for example, your home, the relationship between your parents was not very healthy. Maybe one was controlling the other, and you learned that a controlling behavior and seeing a controlling dynamic, which is toxic, is normal. So when you actually get to the adulthood, what would you do? You go to the normal schools that don't teach you anything like that. They teach you science, and then you graduate from, for example, high school. You find a girl that you like, and immediately kind of feel connected to this person, although some of the behavior that she exhibits are toxic. But because you think it's very normal, you don't even see the red flags and warning signs. If she's using and controlling, and if you've seen this pattern in your childhood, then you would be very familiar. You feel very familiar. You know, it feels very familiar. So your intuition says this is great. And the other way around, if you find somebody who is very trustworthy, but may not be acting the same way that one of your parents did, then you may feel that this doesn't feel right. So what does your intuition tell you? In both cases, I think intuition can tell you the wrong thing. But of course, we always have chances and choices that in adulthood we experiment with relationships, and then after a while we learn what's good for us. Well, if we are lucky, and sometimes not. But yeah, through structured study, you can really go and figure out what is running the show, what are the underlying beliefs that are running, and whether or not you are making decision based on a correct kind of mindset.
You and I, we got in touch because I had a past episode where we talked about a similar concept in marketing, right? Do you remember what I talked about there that sparked your interest in talking to me about intuition and how intuition isn't always as reliable as we're told?
Yeah, but when we talked about the intuition, for me, it was very important that sometimes people say just follow your heart and follow your intuition. And I think this is very bad advice. Uh, and it could be a good advice only if you have worked on yourself well enough to be able to stop the negative program that are running in your subconscious. If you are able to work and look at the world from the being in a present moment, then you can get a correct intuition. But as long as some traumatic experience has happened in your past, that most likely a lot of people who haven't worked on themselves, they are not even aware of it. So the intuition can be very negative. I highly recommend that people really try to discover themselves, and also do the things that are outside their comfort zone, right? Sometimes intuition tells you to stay in a comfort zone and not go outside the comfort zone. But going outside the comfort zone sometimes is against how we really feel comfortable. And then we have to take that step to learn.
In my journey, I started as a blogger, meaning I was just writing blog posts, writing content, writing emails, writing ebooks. Everything was written. And then when I started creating videos, that felt very wrong.
Hmm.
I would record videos, I would make videos, publish them, and it just felt completely wrong for me to do that.
Yeah.
And now, clearly, today I create a lot of video content. I work with a lot of people and businesses and help them with their video content. So that was my major experience where it felt wrong doing it month after month, but I knew that that was just a feeling. The feeling was wrong, but I wanted to continue. I wanted to push through. Do you think that's the same thing you're talking about in terms of intuition, or is that on a different level?
I mean, I personally, when I started my YouTube channel, I tried to perfect the job so for so long that I never started to make a single video until I started it. And I was in front of the camera, very uncomfortable, felt very uncomfortable, and did the recording and also published it, right? So I started with that. So what did my intuition say? My intuition said that I have to look perfect in front of the camera. And why? Probably because people's opinion is very important, whereas it's not actually. A lot of times people look at the YouTube videos, and sometimes when there is a bit of imperfection, they prefer that because it looks much natural and authentic. So in the same way, that feeling of being uncomfortable doing something is sometimes your intuition telling you this is not for you. And yeah, sometimes you can work it from two angles: either the inner work, which try to to uncover what your deeper thoughts and beliefs are and how you can change that, and I help people to do that, but also through the experience itself, which is sometimes harder, but you can get at least some result faster, which is just do what you think is right, what is right logically, and then ignore the feeling part. So the logic was that you start your video, right? You ignore the feeling, gain confidence, and the feeling improved afterwards. And of course, at some point, you should definitely follow your feelings, which is, for example, you live with somebody for 1 year, and then whether or not to continue with them a much longer term relationship and have a family with them. I think those kind of examples are when you should definitely, of course, follow your feelings. It's not that you shouldn't follow your feelings, but especially with the experimenting and starting the journey, as you said with your video thing, yeah, it's very similar.
You mentioned something earlier where you said we need to do structured study. Was that the word?
Yeah.
What is structured study?
So I have a PhD in economics, and I learned to. I'm trained to to fundamentally study things really deeply. And when I got to the area of self development, and I did cognitive behavioral therapy study and became a practitioner, so I structurally and deeply learned how our subconscious is contributing to our conscious behavior. What are the things that are running the show that when we are not even aware of it? So I recommend, for example, for people who are having relationship anxiety, or they want to improve their dating, to study the things structured in a way that they start learning from a deep level what they want, what their negative beliefs are, how to change those. And then next would be what to do, like in terms of behavior, right? How to go on a date, for example, and kind of understand where the other person come from, and also understand what are the red flags. So that is a structure. So you start with the deep, then you go to the techniques, and then when you move through the trajectory of a relationship, from each level, you should have awareness in conscious and subconscious in your conscious and subconscious mind to know what is happening and how to achieve your success. And also, once you achieve your success, of course, after it should be aligned with you feeling fulfilled too. So success is not necessarily achieving some outcome, but you want to also have a fulfilled relationship or life. And therefore, yeah, by structure, I mean looking at it at different levels.
Do you think that the same approach can be applied to, for example, marketing, or like coaches who want to go on social media, go on YouTube, and start attracting clients and booking calls?
Yeah, the thing is that if in your subconscious what's running the show is that you're not good enough, then when you are trying to advertise that, when you make a video, when you're running on the belief that you can't do it, although you try to perfect the presentation and have enough energy or something, but humans are so smart that they can really detect the lack of self-esteem and lack of belief in your product. They can detect it. So when you are doing the marketing, I think working on a deeper level, working on your self-limiting belief, trying to remove them and replace them with a positive beliefs is very important, because what you want to do, you want to come as a person who is authentic and confident, not just perform and show confidence, but also you know be confident in all levels, be happy with who you are when you are alone, when nobody's watching you. I think that contributes massively to how people perceive you.
Why do you think then that people say you should fake it till you make it, and that is such a common advice? Or people, in hindsight, they even say, "Well, I was faking it until I made it."
Yeah, so as I said, you can but that is sometimes it's a harder way to achieve success. So by faking it means, like for example, your example about going in front of the camera, you started, and of course, it's difficult even if you're not trying to sell anything online. By trying every time, what you expect and what you hope is that your subconscious tells you that you're okay. You can do it without really bad stuff happening to you. Sometimes rejection feels so bad that we are hardwired to think that rejection equates to a huge pain. And if you want to go a little bit in a deeper level, when we were sort of primates, I studied evolutionist psychology, and a part of it says that for us, when we used to live in tribes, rejection equates to death, because if people in a tribe don't accept you, don't want you, they will put you out of the tribe, and then probably the animals will eat you, or you will starve death. So when you keep trying and getting rejected and not being accepted and the things not working, but still you say that, okay, so although my business hasn't worked yet, but nothing really bad happened to me, externally. So kind of that sort of subconscious thing that rejection is so painful and so negative will go away. And then you sort of stop that really negative voice and think, well, okay, that's fine. I mean, I made some YouTube videos that, if I look at it, I just cringe. I mean, I don't like to even watch them. I didn't like to watch them, but I enjoy watching them now. It's the early on that I was very nervous in front of the camera, and that I think that faking to making it is still working in a deeper level. It tells you that your assumptions and the reason for your anxiety is not really valid in the end. So you become more comfortable with the process.
When we're talking about intuition misleading us, so if I understand you correctly, that means unless we have spent significant time and purposeful time investigating ourselves, understanding why we have certain patterns, why we have certain triggers, why we react to some things.
Mhm.
Unless we have done that deep work on ourselves, then we can't really trust our intuition. Did I understand that correctly?
Uh, yeah, generally, yes. Generally, in any area of our lives, then there is kind of negative programming. If we didn't, for example, have a healthy relationship in our childhood with our parents, and our parents didn't have a good, healthy relationship with them, so us choosing a partner may not be a good idea, because if you had a great family, if you had a great childhood experience, that's also extremely rare. If it so if you didn't have that, then you wouldn't have really good outcome.
What I'm trying to understand is how people who are trying to build something, right? And I see marketing as building. We're building audiences, we're building trust. We have to create content, we have to create messages and ideas that we can communicate to people so that they want to listen to us and consider working with us. So in this entire process, I think that intuition and finding our way plays a huge role. And so what I'm trying to learn from you is how to best approach that. What is the in which areas do we just go with our gut and we say this sounds right, this feels right, I'm going with it, and in which areas do we investigate deeper and don't just trust the gut?
Well, I think, when you are defining your niche, it has to be aligned with your values. And I think you that doesn't necessarily make a mistake. Sometimes our values is based on the things that we think is our that is missing from us, and that can be a positive thing. So I think the aligning the niche with the value is important, and in that way you should feel that you're contributing, or you should feel that it works for you, then this is what you want to do, because otherwise you will be spending your time kind of wasting your time, because you're not really enjoying what you're doing. And when you know your value and what you want to contribute and what you want to create, then of course uh, you will search for the niches. So this is working from the deep level, right? I'm not saying how to create a specific niche, but you have to be comfortable with it.
You said something interesting. You said that we work on something that we like. We work on something that aligns with our values. And I read a really interesting example of someone. I think the guy was like a skateboarder or a surfer, and he started selling women's jewelry online. That's how I remember the story. And they used him as an example to say that perspective changes so much. So the guy doesn't wear women's jewelry. He never bought women's jewelry. He's not interested in women's jewelry. But the reason he was so passionate about this business was because he was passionate about the process of interviewing people, or not interviewing like we're doing here, but talking to the marketplace, finding out what they want, and then giving it to them.
Yep.
He was so passionate about the process of talking to women, learning about their jewelry needs, and then finding producers, or I don't know, like places to deliver it to them, that it didn't matter to him that he was selling women's jewelry. And so the this entire example was to showcase that perspective changes how passionate we are about something. He's not passionate about women's jewelry, he's passionate about the process of talking to people and then giving them what they want.
Hmm.
What do you think about that when it comes to intuition and defining our values and our day-to-day activities, that one person, like two people doing the same activities, living the same day, one person being super passionate about it, another person being drained and empty at the end of the day, how much of it is just perspective, right? We can tell the person, well, if you change your perspective, this is going to be great. And how much is truth? How much is really our values and our truth?
Yeah. Well, I guess with a guy, so let's talk about the guy with who sells the jewelry. And you said that he's passionate about the process. Are you sure that he's passionate about the process? Or is he passionate about finding the gap and providing something that people are missing? And although it's a jewelry, uh, right? So I don't think that I'm not sure if he really liked the process, because what does a process mean? Picking up the phone, speaking to a person, and of course that connection maybe he enjoys. But the process is also putting stuff in the list, putting stuff in the file. So I wouldn't call it process. I if I was him, and I mean I haven't talked to this person and I don't know who he is, but it might be that he has a passion in communicating with people. I have similar passion. I love talking to people. He also maybe have the passion to fill some gap.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're right.
You can change the perspective. So if you find what you are providing is aligned by value, by the way that you look at it, of course you're going to enjoy it. So even that also is a very general thing. I mean, depending on how positive and negative people are, you can make yourself more positive about anything that you're doing generally, right? And of course, if you change your perspective, you can train yourself to see value in what you do. So that is one thing, right? Finding value on what you do because of the way that you think. There is also something that gravitates you in your life, and you don't really need to change perspective. It could be, for example, helping people. Could be something that you're really passionate about. So you don't need to change your perspective for that. So I think both works. If it is what you're really passionate about, of course, it's much more automatic and easier. But when you also change your perspective, it can also make you passionate. And I think the combination is the best. So if you have a niche that you really love, and then some part of some aspect of your work you're not going to enjoy, maybe you don't enjoy the video editing part, or you don't enjoy writing emails, or taking, like, oh, there are a lot of things that we do. So you are passionate about something, but there is a lot of things that you're doing that I'm sure that you're not passionate about, but you can change your perspective to make your time firstly enjoyable, and also contribute more positively to your outcome.
Yeah. I think ultimately what we're talking about here is decision making, right? Like how to make the right decision and feel confident that we've made the right decision.
Hmm.
What is your number one advice for people who have to make difficult decisions, like picking their niche, picking their life partner, defining their values?
Yeah, so these fields that you're talking about are very diverse, and what I learned that in any kind of aspect of your life, the only thing that you can control is yourself and not the environment. Of course, you can, through your actions, you create a better environment. Through a lot of experience and study, you create a better outcome. If I want to give one advice, is in any area that you're thinking about, improve yourself or make yourself a person who attracts opportunity automatically. Attract opportunities in business, attract opportunities in dating, in your relationship. This is who you become. So you become independent of the outcome. The outcome will come to you automatically.
Wow.
And even if you fail in any area of your life, from the out, uh, f- from the outsider point of view, of course, it wouldn't be maybe a failure from your own point of view, because it would be a lesson. Even if it looks like that you are failing, what doesn't change is you, a person who can automatically create opportunities in any aspect of their life, and just relying on that. it needs experiment. It needs a lot of self-development work, and that would be the most fulfilling, because you can create the best relationship with the best person, the best business partner. You can create the best company, and something may happen, and maybe some part of this will fall apart. But if you are a person who automatically attracts opportunity, and that would not matter in the end. You become very self-reliant.
I love that, becoming a person that attracts opportunity. What kind of people do attract opportunity? What are the characteristics? What is the first step that we can take to getting closer to being that person?
So through my work, I do cognitive behavior. Depending on people's style, I I construct something that is useful for them. So you do, for example, cognitive behavioral therapy. You see how the thoughts and feelings and behavior are connected to each other. So you can change one to change the other. That's one way. You can do meditation. You can do some exercises when you remember your childhood at different stage of your childhood, and you bring some love to them. So it's I don't think that it fits, like, the full. I cannot fully explain that, but one example is when you imagine, kind of, you create a feeling of loving yourself, and then through that you remember some childhood memory, and then you try to hug it, especially, like, well, at any age, you bring some love to that, and then you feel a bit more fulfilled. You can do that at different ages, in the past and if in the future.
Are these daily exercises, weekly exercises, or whenever the need arises?
The more the better. I think the doing this daily would be great, and doesn't have to be even once a day. You can allocate some times to do it so that you don't forget it, but you can develop an ability to be able to do this like as a background while doing other stuff, and that takes a bit of work and discipline. But actually, once you do this, you see that even the process of the work that's not very enjoyable becomes enjoyable.
Yeah. And so this is the first step to becoming a person that attracts opportunity. How does this lead to becoming a person that attracts opportunity?
You see opportunities. You stop being negative about your life. You don't tell yourself all these negative stories that this is not gonna fail, this is going to fail. If something fails, you think, well, that's great, so I'll do something a bit different to succeed, right? So that sort of a lot of things come from the childhood, and we think that we are not good enough. So imagine a program that is running in our head, and we are not even aware of it, and it's like, we are not good enough, we're gonna fail. And that is running for most people, like for a lot of people, that program is running, and they don't even hear it, right? You hear it, like, by time to time. So when you will be working and something bad happens, the word comes up, but because it's so familiar and it's singing in our ears all the time, we think that it doesn't even exist. I think it's just a part of me. It's a part of me to expect that I may fail, and I may not succeed, and I may not get what I want, and that's normal, and that's not a thought even, right? That's not even a program. This is a reality. So we can be so unaware of it. But when you change that, what happens? If you make it the opposite, you think everything will be fine. Even if I fail now, I can succeed next. Every failure is a lesson. You know, if that changes, your behavior changes. How you feel changes, how you relate to people changes, how you talk to them changes, how you advertise your kind of product changes, and then it affects everything.
This is excellent, Morteza. How can people get in touch with you?
They can go to mortezachalak.com. That's my website. And if it's possible, I can actually leave a link here if they want to look at how to remove relationship anxiety, or they can follow the info at mortezachalak.com as well. But the easiest is just you Google my name, Morteza Chalak. You see my website. You can just fill the form.
Morteza, thank you for taking the time to speak to me today, even though you're recovering from the flu. Really appreciate that you're here. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. And yeah, it was a fun session, actually. I really enjoyed it.